Marc Marquez just signed with Ducati through 2028, and the paddock called it the most predictable signature of the season. Reigning champion, best bike on the grid, 2 more years locked in. A formality, except days after that signature, Marquez sat in front of a DAZN camera at Assen and admitted the part nobody in red wanted said out loud. Before he committed to Ducati, he sat down with Honda, the manufacturer he walked away from, the one everyone assumed was finished as a destination for him. So why would a champion on the dominant bike take that meeting at all? And why did Honda believe, even for one afternoon, it could pull him back? Here is what that admission quietly does. It turns a rubber stamp into a decision. For months, the only question seemed to be when the press release would land. But you do not take a meeting with your old employer if the answer is already automatic. You take it because something in you is still listening. And that changes who holds the power here. Ducati did not simply retain a champion. Ducati had to win him back from a ghost that still has a grip on him. The real question is how hard Honda pulled and how close it came to working. The story did not come from Ducati, and it did not come from Honda. It came from El Periódico, the Spanish paper, through a reporter who has covered Marquez for years. According to that report, the meeting happened on the Friday of the Valencia weekend last season, the final round of 2025. Marquez was not even racing. He was sidelined through injury, only weeks removed from clinching his 9th world title for Ducati. And while he sat out, Honda opened a door inside its own hospitality unit and asked him to walk back through it. Think about that timing. This was not a quiet winter phone call. This was Honda making its move at the exact moment Marquez was at his most untouchable, newly crowned, unbeatable on the Desmosedici, the single hardest target in the sport to sign. And Honda still tried. That alone tells you this was not a casual catch-up between old colleagues. Somebody decided it was worth the risk of being told no to his face. So what was Honda actually trying to do in that room? Almost nothing concrete, as it turns out. No money, no contract draft, no numbers at all. The stated goal was to test the waters, to see whether a return might be possible somewhere down the line. Honda was not negotiating. Honda was knocking, very quietly, just to find out if the door was still unlocked. Which leaves the question that actually matters. Who did Honda send to do the knocking? And this is the detail that almost slips past you. Not a junior executive, not some neutral middleman. Honda sent Alberto Puig, the man who runs the team, the man who stood beside Marquez through the broken arm, the surgeries, the worst stretch of his career, the bitter exit. Honda's answer to losing its greatest rider was to send the one person most tied to why he left and ask him to come home. That is not a cold business overture. That is Honda trying to heal something it knows it broke. And this is where Marquez's own words matter, because they land as a confession, not a denial. Speaking to DAZN at Assen, he said, "There was an informal conversation, but I was always clear that I wanted to hear Ducati first. If I was happy there, I wasn't going to start playing the game of talking to one manufacturer or another. We sat down with Ducati and reached an agreement straight away. On the surface, that sounds like a clean rejection. Listen again. He did not say he refused the meeting. He said he took it and chose Ducati anyway. Then came the line that gives the whole thing away. Going back to Honda would have been a very romantic move. And of course, it was something I wanted. Read that twice. Something I wanted. The reigning champion, on the best bike in the world, admitting out loud that part of him still wanted to go back to the manufacturer that very nearly ended him. That is not the language of a man slamming a door. That is the language of a man who had to talk himself out of opening it. He finished the thought the way only someone who has been burned can. But I already take enough risks on track. Sometimes you have to make decisions with your head rather than your heart, just as I did when I decided to leave Honda. So the same cold logic that pulled him out of Honda is what kept him at Ducati. The heart wanted the reunion, the head remembered the surgeries, and the head won, by the narrowest margin he was willing to admit on camera. So strip away the romance and look at what this meeting actually proves. People thought this story was about Marquez flirting with a comeback. It was never about Marquez. It was about Honda. Because look at what Honda did the moment it understood Marquez was gone for good. It did not retreat and rebuild in silence. It went straight to Fabio Quartararo and convinced a former world champion to lead its project into the new 850cc era, arriving in 2027. That is the tell. Honda is not behaving like a manufacturer calmly waiting for its turn. It is behaving like one that has decided it cannot rebuild on engineers and patience alone. It needs a name, a face, a reason for the paddock to believe in it again. And the name it wanted first, before Quartararo, before anyone, was the name that got away. Honda's opening bid for its own credibility was Marc Marquez himself. When that failed, it settled for the next biggest star it could reach. This was never a sentimental reunion. It was a manufacturer measuring its own pull against the one rider whose return would have proven instantly that Honda was worth taking seriously again. He said no, and that no is the most honest verdict on Honda's project anyone has offered all year. The man who won 6 Premier Class titles on that bike looked at the rebuild up close and still walked the other way. So here is the truth underneath the headline. Marc Marquez re-signing with Ducati was never the formality everyone assumed. It was a choice he had to make against the only pull strong enough to genuinely test him, the manufacturer that built him into a legend, and then broke him in the process. He admitted the heart wanted to go home. He admitted the romance was real, and then he did the coldest, most professional thing a champion can do. He chose the bike that wins. Honda gambled that history and gratitude might be enough. It sent its team principal, opened its doors, and asked the greatest rider it ever had to come back and save it. Marquez listened, out of respect, and said no with his head while his heart argued the other way. That refusal is not a footnote. It is the clearest signal yet of where the power in this sport actually sits now. Ducati did not just keep its champion. It beat Honda for him, head to head, and Honda never got the chance to name a price. The manufacturer that once owned Marc Marquez is now reduced to quietly asking, and the answer was no. So the real question is not whether Marquez stayed. It is whether Honda just admitted, without meaning to, that it cannot rebuild the future without first begging the past. Do you think Honda ever had a real shot at bringing him home? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.